I remember when growing up in North London in the 1950s and 60s that one of the pleasures that one looked forward to was going out to dinner, which on the whole was not something we as a family did on many occasions. It usually meant a birthday or some other celebration was coming up, and invariably a really special occasion meant going Chinese. Of course, I was pig ignorant in those days about Chinese food. Usually it meant Cantonese-style cuisine, and it was de rigueur that we ordered sweet and sour pork, fried rice, and lychees out of a can to finish off. It was accompanied by jasmine tea, and sometimes on really special occasions we had deep-fried battered bananas with ice cream as well. When I was in my teens, I discovered Peking duck, and we would go right across to the other side of London to a restaurant in the East End in order to get it. London in those days, and even now to a certain degree, catered for a very westernised palate. Little did I know until very much later how varied and how very different food in China is to what we had been brought up to believe. Having now been in China for nearly 2 years, I've been keen to improve my education in this particular subject. But last week I was taken to a restaurant by my friend Ji Juan to try out a cuisine that I had never encountered before, and I can only wonder how I could have missed out on such wonderful food all this time. The restaurant is called Jinjiachun Mianshe Fen, and is located in the Huilongguan area in the north of the city. Unlike many restaurants that have stone lions or pishu guarding their portals, you can spot this one immediately. It has stone dragons. The restaurant specializes in Shanxi-style cuisine. Shanxi is a province located in the North China region and is also called Jin after the state of Jin that existed here during the spring and autumn period. Shanxi literally means mountains west, which refers to the province's location west of the Taihan Mountains. It borders Hebei to the east, Henan to the south, Shanxi to the west, and Inner Mongolia to the north, and is made up mainly of a plateau bounded partly by mountain ranges. The province has a rich cultural heritage, with more than 70% of all ancient architecture in China built before the Liao and Song dynasties. The Yong'an Grottoes, for instance, with a history of more than 1,500 years, is one of the largest cave clusters in China and comprise 53 caves and over 51,000 stone statues representing Chinese Buddhist cave art from the period of 460 to 525 AD. Shanxi actually has over 35,000 relic sites that include architecture, grottos, houses, murals, and sculptures. Small wonder, therefore, that this restaurant chooses this as the main decoration theme on one of its walls. Ji Juan and I first order Tu Dou Che Ze Pa Yu Mian, which is a typical local speciality. It consists of fried vegetables made up of potato, aubergine, green peppers, tomato, and spring onions, mixed with a tomato sauce. And they all sit on top of steamed rolls made of oat flour, known as Yu Mian Wo Wo, which form a honeycomb-like cluster into which the sauce and ingredients slowly fall. Truly scrummy. Next up, a dish that is found all over China, but almost probably originates from Sichuan. It requires the use of an ingredient unfamiliar to most Western cooks, dried cloud ear, also known as wood ear fungus, and in China as mu'er. Yu shang ro se normally contains pork, chili, and green vegetables. The way it is cooked in Shanxi uses vinegar, soy sauce, sugar, and chili, together with doubanjiang, a spicy salty paste made from fermented broad beans, soybeans, salt, rice, and various spices, which give it a slightly sweetish taste. Yu shang ro se is generally understood to mean pork shreds prepared in the manner of fish, and translates as fish-fragrant pork shreds, even though there's no fish in it. Its unique quality can be attributed to the shredded fungus and green shoots, which contribute to a flexible yet strikingly crunchy texture. Up next is mapo tofu, which probably needs no introduction. Another dish, basically regarded as coming from Sichuan, the fact is that everyone makes it these days. The name mapo tofu is roughly translated as pockmarked grandmother bean curd, named after an old woman who supposedly was cast out of Chengdu owing to her disfigurement. One day, a weary trader happened upon her shack, and she was so delighted with his company that she scraped together her meagre provisions to create this dish, which is made from tofu and meat and cooked in a chili bean sauce. though the Shanxi style is slightly less mouth-numbing than its Sichuan counterpart. So that's the first course, which we munch our way through prior to the pièce de résistance, which I've been briefed beforehand is something that I should go and see being prepared. Now, it's said that Italian pasta is a direct descendant of Chinese noodles, Marco Polo having returned to Italy in the 13th century and introduced his fellow Italians to what would become a staple of their diet. And Shanxi claims the honour of being the first province in the Central Kingdom to come up with the idea of noodles. Among the various noodles, Dao Xiao Mian, knife-shaped noodles, are probably Shanxi's most famous. And it's said that shaved noodles are as much a feast for the eyes as they are for the mouth. Basically, a chef stands in front of a huge pot of boiling water with a large lump of noodle dough in one hand, possibly weighing as much as 9 kilograms. The dough is very hard and is mixed by machine from just flour and water and left to stand for half an hour. He shaves the dough with a thin, arc-shaped knife into the boiling water, and it's said that a top chef can shave as many as 200 bits a minute. The tradition of making shaved noodles has been carried on in Shanxi since the beginning of the Yuan dynasty, and apparently every summer the annual Shanxi International Noodle Cultural Festival is held in the city centre. Once cooked, the noodles are lifted out of the pot, and a sauce with mince is placed on top of them, together with a pinch of coriander. The texture is slightly rubbery and more chewy than most other noodles, but really tasty. To wash all this down, the most common drink is not beer or hot tea, but hot water served in kettles that stand on plates on the table and get filled by the waiting staff periodically. Although we were some of the first to arrive, it's obvious that we've been talking so much and enjoying watching the cookery show that we are now some of the last in the restaurant. In Europe and the Middle East, the restaurateurs will often dim the lights as a subtle hint to their guests that it's perhaps time they should be thinking of making a move. Here in Beijing, it's not yet 8:30, yet we're left in no doubt that it's time for us to make a move too, when the waiting staff bring out large tubs of soapy hot water and proceed to do the washing up on some of the neighbouring tables vacated by earlier diners. OK, hint taken, we're on our way. Really we are. But it was a great meal. Scrummy and yummy, not to mention delish. A few days later, I'm in the area again, and this time Jijuan suggests we try out one of the fast food joints around the corner from her office. Why don't we try out Shanxi style again, she suggests. Why not indeed? There's a fast food restaurant called Shiko Popo, literally grandmother or old woman in the Shiko area. But once inside, we discover that this is not a Shanxi-style eatery, but Shaanxi style. OK, you won't be surprised at this faux pas, as your favourite podcaster is a hardcore genus expatrius, Mandarin-challenged Laowai. I turn to Wikipedia for enlightenment. Shaanxi should not be confused with the neighbouring province of Shanxi, it advises. Ha! Now it tells us. The Chinese pronunciations differ only in tone. Shanxi is considered one of the cradles of Chinese civilization, Wikipedia continues. 13 feudal dynasties established their capitals in the province during a span of more than 1100 years, from the Zhou dynasty to the Tang dynasty. The province's principal city and current capital, Xi'an, is one of the 4 great ancient capitals of China, and is the eastern terminus of the Silk Road, which leads to Europe, the Arabian Peninsula, and Africa. Inside, the fast food outlet is basic, but snug and clean. On one of the walls are ropes of dried corn and garlic, which is apparently a typical decoration of Shaanxi. The owners have taken some thought in decorating their little Shanxi home from home, and one of the walls also features a novel use for steam baskets that I haven't encountered before. One look at the prices is enough to confirm that this eatery gives extremely good value for money. Typically, 10 kwai per dish, about £1, and when the food actually arrives they come in gargantuan portions. Jijuan takes a takeaway menu to keep at home. The staff are extremely friendly, not least the table clearer-upper who leers through a hole in the wall just over my right shoulder. For our fast feast we start with pidan, also called songguadan, otherwise known in the West as preserved egg, 100-year-old egg, 1000-year-old egg, and millennium egg. They are traditionally prepared by preserving duck, chicken or whale's eggs in a mixture of clay, ash, salt, quicklime, and rice hulls for several weeks to several months, depending on the method of processing. Through the above process, the yolk becomes a dark grey colour with a creamy consistency and with a slight smell of sulphur and ammonia, while the white becomes a dark brown, translucent jelly with not a great deal of flavour. Apparently, the transforming agent in the egg is its alkaline material, which gradually raises the pH of the egg to around 9 to 12, or more, during the curing process, which breaks down some of the complex flavourless proteins and fats and produces a variety of smaller flavourful compounds. Some recipes involve the infusion of tea in boiling water, to which is added quicklime, sea salt, and wood ash from burned oak. While wearing gloves to prevent the lime corroding the skin, each egg is individually covered by hand, then rolled in a mass of rice chaff to keep the eggs from adhering to one another before they're placed in cloth-covered jars or tightly woven baskets. The mud slowly dries and hardens into a crust over several months, and then the eggs are ready for consumption. And jolly good they are too. Next, we're brought a noodle dish known as Qishan Mian, which makes use of simple ingredients, such as pork floating in a sour and spicy tomato-flavoured soup with sweet vinegar and diced spring onions, and with garlic and coriander. I soon get the hang of eating slippery spaghetti-type noodles with chopsticks, while mopping up with copious amounts of paper serviettes. Our next dish is one of Shanxi's specialities, hand-pulled dried noodles, called Jingpin Yopo Mian, which, unlike the Shanxi speciality, is made by stretching out the dough by hand rather than shaving off strips from a dough block. It comes with chicken and egg and green veggies and loads of dried chilies and garlic. Jijuan calls over one of the waiting staff, a friendly soul who offers to let this Laowai see the dough being prepared. Inside the kitchen, the chefs are throwing the dough around with gay abandon. They obviously enjoy having an audience. Just think of having to do this every day for a living. There's a supersized dough-making machine, which reminds me of some of the spaghetti-making machines in Europe, but on a much grander scale, of course. We munch, we talk, and the time just flies by, and before we know it, an army of restaurant staff are scrubbing floors all around us, and the lights are gradually being turned off. As we pick up our bags to leave, the staff all smile. A relieved smile, now that we've taken the hint, I wonder. Zaijian, bye-bye. We've enjoyed it. Shanxi or Shaanxi style, I love them both.